Hey, it's LJ Hamilton, and you can find me on Instagram at official LJ Hamilton and also online at decodedwithlj.com. And you're listening to the Houston Collective Radio. He said, let's have a dream, and then proceeded to touch me in private places. Why is it almost always familiar faces that foster molestation? What happens in behind closed door spaces when family members become predators you feel unsafe with? Your innocence is then sacrificed on the altar of forced degradation with no way to escape it. I embraced 3 minutes of separation, where my spirit watched my flesh being taken, absent penetration, but present the same trauma that I couldn't tell my mama. And I couldn't tell my father because we weren't close enough for me to call him. So for the next 20 years, I walked around emotionally naked, just hoping someone saw me, but they didn't. And nobody asked. Nobody cared when I became detached. My life became the darkest it had ever been, yet nobody had seeing eyes to understand this was my Cuzzo. It was cool. It was the secret. No one knew. That's when I learned to master laughter whenever I was going through. See, I wasn't gay, so I was okay. I could just suppress away the pain, and I could shower away the shame, and I could pretend away the hate. And we could still celebrate birthdays, dap it up in church on Thursdays, go back to being cousins because the inappropriate touching never happened in the first place, right? Because it was just a dream. Or at least that's what he said. I often wonder if he ever felt sorry for what he did, or maybe I'm just tripping. Did I mention we were kids, family at that? Maybe I'm making it a bigger deal than it is or it was. You see, that was Cuz. He was a little bit older, but still, that was us. Victim and victimizer couldn't be what we had become. I'm probably overthinking it. I mean, maybe he was just having fun. Damn, I wish I had a rug to sweep everything under so I no longer have to wonder, so the little boy inside of me no longer has to suffer. He hurt me, made me feel unworthy. Prayer isn't working. I'm 40 plus, still trapped in 13, and I'm searching, but still I feel dirty. Still I feel resentment towards those who saw me crying out, but never actually heard me. And y'all, I'm trying to nurse my wounds. But the kid in me deserves the truth. What happened to you was wrong, and my silence hurt you too. I'm sorry I didn't get you the counseling to work things through, but not out, because some stains will always remain in perfect view. But for you, I'm willing to take these steps to ensure your freedom, hoping one day you can look beyond the pain and forgive him. Maybe the abuse was generational, passed down by how someone close did him. Understanding this, I still can't help but feel like a victim, because I am. And what's not talked about enough is Black boys and molestation, the trauma of our violation, the secrets we take to graves, and the pain, internal hatred in household spaces we don't feel safe in. And how it hurts even more when predators have our cousins' faces. That's that.
Well, Rico's here, so intro time, Rico.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. It's my job, part of it. Welcome into the Houston Collective Radio. Here with us is LJ with some spoken word poetry, whatever you want to call it. It's some scrumdiddly-umptious goodness. And we are here, of course, with many guests, as well as Blue, our audio engineer, and Messiah, our host. If you want to hear us, there's plenty of places to find us. Messiah, what do you have to say?
The only thing I have to say is I love how you change your tone of voice to the setting of the show. yeah. So, yes, that was LJ Hamilton, and this is the Cultivated Beat, filmed here at Community Cultivation Network. And this is a place where we feature local Houston artists, nothing but Houston artists. If they're not from Houston, they're actually here in Houston swinging through. And so yeah, let's get to know a little bit about who we just heard. That was LJ Hamilton. So LJ.
Yes.
Let us know who you are. How long have you been doing this poetry stuff?
I've been doing this poetry stuff right now well over 25 years. So since I was 28, I would say. But no, seriously, well over 25 years. And I've been writing all of my life, as long as I can remember, since elementary school. But as far as performing it, about 25 years now.
Still a very, very long time. And
absolutely, yes.
Yeah, no, it definitely shows. And from what I've heard, you definitely have like the essence of like all the old school poets I used to listen to. You know, dare I say, Saul Williams, Bo Sia, and oh man, I'm honestly naming the cast of Slam. Have you seen that movie Slam?
I have not seen it, no.
Oh man, but you are familiar with Saul Williams.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Oh, dude, you definitely got to watch that. It's an amazing story, and it was about Saul Williams getting charged for selling weed during the movie. And when I first saw it, it was during the time where I was facing similar charges. But
I understand.
But no, it's amazing. So are you a local to Houston?
Yes.
Awesome. So what's like the poetry scene like here in Houston?
The poetry scene right now, it's evolving. It's coming into an era where you have a lot of new voices who have new things to say, or just, you know, the same things to say, but in a different way or in a new way. So it's ever evolving, and you have some who are seasoned, as myself, who are still very much involved in the poetry community and very much relevant in the poetry community. And so we're just kind of adapting to those changes and adapting to that evolution. And you have a lot of artists, new and seasoned, who are just finding their way and finding their place. And so it's very open. It's a large community. We have large platforms, and we have amazing curators of those platforms. And so, like I said, it's evolving, and it's an amazing, gigantic poetry scene here in the city that, you know, it's easy to find your place in if you put forth that effort and that work to actually do so.
Awesome. Yeah, no, well, I mean, I've definitely been trying to follow the poetry scene everywhere, every city that I go to. And one thing I have noticed here is there are poets with a different style. So in the poetry scene, are there different styles or genres? Because the style that you're doing or the way you're spitting your poems is something I'm more familiar with, and I've heard other poets that has a different style. So is there a difference between slam poetry? I would assume is that what you're into, and then there's other poetry. Is there? So
you have slam poetry, which is a competitive form of spoken word. And usually you get about 3 minutes with a 10-second grace period, as they say. And that's usually more intense. Then you have people that perform on open mics, whereas it's a little bit more relaxed of a setting. You're more, there's more liberty as it relates to if you make a mistake, if you have to start over, different things like that. And then you have people that have a set, like a feature set, and they kind of master that. So wherever they go, if they need to do a feature, then they'll perform those pieces. So you have poets that can kind of encompass all of that, where I have slam poems, I have love poems, I have this type, I have this style. And then you have poets that kind of stick to one lane or one genre of performance. You got the bar heavy poets that use a lot of bars. You have poets that use a lot of double and triple entendres. So it's just, poetry it encompasses everything. It's one of the very few art forms that can be anything. And so we encourage that, as long as it's not hateful, discriminatory, different things like that. We encourage, people to just be themselves and to find their place in their performance and in their poetry, because it can be anything. It's kind of like, you don't have to be just like someone else, and you don't have to be better than, or try to consider yourself better than someone else. You can just be you and perfect your style the way that you want to perfect it. When it comes to slam poetry, of course, you're performing for points, you're competing for points. So you want to try to outdo the other poet, but at the end of the day, it's never really about being better than, but actually perfecting who you are and being a better version of yourself every time that you get on the mic.
I never knew that, because so anytime, or when I got into poetry, I got more into slam poetry, and my goal is to be less ignorant every day, and so I didn't know that slam poetry was specifically towards competition style stuff.
Mhm.
So now, can you do a slam not in a competition setting? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, like
some of these questions will be silly, but please explain it. Yeah.
yeah, like the piece I just did. I perform that a lot in slams when I feel led to, and it's a high. When I say high scoring, it usually gets a 30 or maybe like a 29-9 or something like that because of how compelling that it actually is. So you can do a slam piece in a setting like this and still have the same impact or even a greater impact, just depending on who's actually listening to the piece. But you can also take an open mic piece and do that in a slam. So they're kind of interchangeable. But you have to understand, in a slam setting, you're competing for points. So whatever piece that you use, be it something that's radical or something that's empowering or something that's erotic or something that's humorous, whatever type of piece that you use in a slam setting, you have to understand you have 3 minutes with a 10-second grace period, and you're competing against other poets who are also going to have a variety of different styles and different performances. So you have to keep that in mind.
So when people are competing in slam poetry settings, how many judges are there usually?
Usually there's 5 judges. That's the standard. Some places may use 3 if they can't find 5. Usually the judges are randomly selected out of the audience. And so with the 5 judges, there's this theory that, if there's a bias, whether it be a good one or a bad one, it eliminates that by dropping the lowest score and the highest score. And then your scores in the middle are the ones that determine the outcome of your points. So if I perform the piece and let's say I got a 9, a 9.5, a 10, a 10, and a 10, the first 9 would be dropped, the last 10 would be dropped, and my score would be 29.5. So sometimes it's only 3 judges, and if it's only 3 judges, then all of those scores are added together to give you whatever accumulation that is afterwards.
So what are the judges judging these performances on?
At the end of the day, it's all subjective, and they're basically judging it on if they like the performance or not, and if they liked you as a poet and as a person or not. You can lose points based on your attire. You can lose points based on the kind of shoes you have on, because when people see and then perceive and then whatever they think, we tell them don't judge based on these things, but some of them do. It's just a part of nature as human beings. And so what they're supposed to judge on is the performance, the poetry, and how they feel about what they just heard. That's it. But sometimes they add in the extras, especially if they can't make a firm decision as it relates to what you just said. Like if they want to give it a 10 or not, they'll say, well, hey, I like his shirt, so I'm gonna give him a point for that. They won't say it out loud, but it's just the extras, or they'll take away from it. I don't like his shirt, so I'm gonna take off a half a point for that, because I've gotten 9.9s, and it's like, okay, what could I have done 0.1 better to get a 10? And it's because it's weird. 9.9 is a weird score. It's like, what could I have done better to get that extra little bit? And you never know, that little bit could have been the way you walked on the stage. It could have been what you have on, your appearance. Any bias that a person has randomly selected, they'll use that to make final determinations. And if you get a 10, that just means they just like you and they like what you had to say, and it was great to them.
I have a lot of questions about that, but do we want to go to the next piece first, or do you want me to here? Let's go to the next piece and let me formulate some decent questions. So what's the next piece called?
The next piece is titled Man Cave.
Man Cave. All right. Well, yes. I'm ready for it.
Where do black men go when we cry? We go silent. We go violent. We find a depressive man cave and hide inside it. When of our heartache we are constantly reminded, we find that running is the only way to survive it, suicide. I've tried it. Obviously, I couldn't even get that right, since the aftermath of trying was me sitting alone in silence, wondering why I hadn't started dying. See, I wanted to be a statistic, one who couldn't live with the voices and the noises and the imprisonment of existence. I had just dropped out of college. I was failing, to be honest, and the hurt of love unreturned never was acknowledged. The pain had me held hostage. I thought 25 pills would stop it. I just wanted it abolished because my life was catastrophic. That night, I knew exactly where my mom went, to that place where they say God lives. She made it a habit to put prayer into action. As I sat there unable to imagine who or where God is, I saw demise as a safe space, the grave as an escape place, hoping the afterlife was sweeter. Between what's next and regret, I teetered as I reached out to the Reaper to be my gateway. I felt sadness all around me. As in a living room full of tears, I was drowning. What's ironic is, in a living room, I felt nothing but death around me. My head started pounding as flashbacks of failure started shouting, repeating every mistake I had ever made loudly to ensure any pride my mama had in me would be broken once she found me. In that moment, I started to panic. Thoughts were those of a manic. I no longer wanted to die. I just didn't want to live with this damage. But how could I undo what happened? And after this, how could I manage? It's one thing to have baggage. It's another thing not knowing how to unpack it. I called my best friend to come quickly. I told him I fell and hit my head and needed him to come get me. I had him drop me off at the ER, but the shame had already convinced me that they couldn't fix me. I walked back home instead of inside, sat in that same chair and cried. Now knowing where the Spirit of God was, all I could do was ask, why am I still here? In the presence of the Most High, the answer was because my life had a purpose, and at this time I could not die. That revelation was my saving grace. But how many more of us can't say the same? If we had the liberty to be broken with acceptance, then maybe more of us wouldn't stay that way. Instead, we don't get the grace to say we're hurting in a major way. All we get is talked about for not manning up enough to take the pain. Then we go idle, we go psycho, we go routes that's suicidal, we go bridal when the entitled feel like we owe them explanations for our spiral. We go to social media for survival, where our cries for help go viral. Nobody listens or pays attention until our signs of life are no longer vital. Then we go lifeless, we go lightless. We dim our own shine so no one hears us crying. We go on an emotionally broken journey until we find it, that man cave, and then we choose to die inside it.
I love my man cave, dude.
Yeah. Thank you.
And more than likely, I will die in there. I hate to admit that. All right. So, well, you know, I was hoping that this last piece would clear my mind for better questions on the thing we're talking about, but it didn't, because I love my man cave. But, okay. So here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
So during these competitions,
Yeah.
if you just so happen to get a judge that just doesn't like you, does that really mess up the whole like competition aspect of it?
Well, that's something you really don't know, honestly, unless you know this person personally. And then we have, especially when it's a slam on a national stage, we have what we call, you can protest, where a poet can go to the slam master, whoever the slam master may be, and protest that judge. You can say, hey, I know that person, and we have a great relationship, or we have had a terrible breakup or a terrible relationship or whatever, and I don't think it would be fair for them to be a judge. And so then they would investigate it, and then they would probably just remove that person as a judge and go find someone else. But unfortunately, you have people who may have their friends come out and volunteer to be a judge and not say anything, so it'll work in their favor. And that's why they always drop the high and drop the low, to kind of eliminate bias, but you can't eliminate it 100%. It's going to be some bias there. So we never really know if it's just a random judge that just doesn't like you, because of, whatever the content of your poetry, your identification, your orientation, your race, whatever it may be. They may not say that verbally, but their scores will reflect that. I've seen judges give very low scores to great poets and performances. I've seen 4s, I've seen 5s, I've seen lower than that. The highest you can get is a 10. So when you start seeing lower scores like that, you can kind of assume it's a bias there for some reason. Not saying that that's the case all of the time, but you can kind of assume that, especially if it was a great performance and you only gave it like a 4 or a 5 or something like that. So it exists. It's hard to discover and figure out and weed out. So they try to eliminate that at least a little bit by taking away the high and the low scores, the highest and the lowest.
Oh, okay. And I would assume these competitions have been running like this for as long as these competitions have been existing. So this is like common knowledge for the competitions and judges or if you're going into a competition, this is something that you are ready for, just in case someone is a judge and they don't like you.
Right. Yeah. You're fully aware of that. And again, like I said, with the ever evolving community, especially here in the city, we're getting away from slam culture into different types of competition, to whereas it's still competitive, but it's not just the restrictions of a slam. Like we have a Bars Fest, and it's poet versus poet. You have 3 randomly selected judges, and they just hold up flags. So it's a red poet who gets a red flag, yellow poet gets the yellow flag, and then whoever performed the best in that round, that's the flag that the judge puts up. So it's not even based on points. It's just based on who gave the better performance and who basically spit the best bars. So it's called Bars Fest. So we have that, and then we have just a lot of different type. We have a last man standing type of competition, whereas it's a 1 round and you do your best poem, and if you don't score the highest, then you're eliminated. You don't get a second round or anything like that. So it's a lot of different facets of it that poets can involve themselves in. But slam culture itself, you have to walk into it knowing that these are the things that you're facing. And if you expect to win, you got to know how to navigate through that.
Oh, so it's like you have to be more than just a poet to be a slam poet. Is what it sounds like.
You have to be teachable. You have to be coachable, and then when you get in these settings, you have to understand the environment and what you're actually looking at, and what that environment and that setting actually calls for. And so when I compete, I look at the setting. I look at the judges. That's why no poet wants to go first, because we're like, what are the judges looking for? So we want to see what the judges are looking for. And so I just check the scene, I check the setting, and then I'll know, do I want to do a serious piece? Do I want to do a funny piece? Do I want to do a love piece? You got to be able to pull up an audible at any time. That's why it's imperative that as a spoken word artist, you have so many different types of poems in your bag, as they say, because you never know what that environment is going to call for. And so that's why I never like to stick to just one type of poetry, because it could call for something else, and I want to be ready for that.
Well, with that said, you've been a poet or a performing poet for 25 years now. What made you decide to become a poet rather than, I don't know, a rapper or R&B singer, a jazz musician? You know what I mean? Like, why poetry?
Well, I can't sing, unfortunately.
Neither can I.
I have done some rap and hip hop back in the day. Poetry just it worked out better for me. And it was just a chance and opportunity for me to express myself in the way that I wanted to express it, and be great at it. Just not to hype myself up, but just because I'm great at it. As a national champion, as the most winningest poet in right about now poetry's history. It's just all of these things because I'm great at it, and I'm thankful to God because of that. It's not a pride thing. I'm great at this, so I'm going to continue to do it. And so I continue to evolve in my craft, and it's easy for me when it comes to poetry. Unlike it would be with anything else, I never had a desire to play an instrument. I appreciate that. I appreciate instrumentalists and all of that, and I love to see it and listen to it and different things like that, but that was never really a desire of mine. I used to write music back in the day, but then it was nothing was really a desire that was greater than this, because I can write a poem and it just kind of flows out, and then I can perfect the performance of it, and then I can be great at it, and I can go on stage with seasoned poets and even younger poets, and still, if it's a competition, still compete and still win in a lot of cases. And even when I don't, I take that as a learning opportunity to do whatever I need to do differently next time. So I've been on national stages all over with this poetry thing. And so that's what I'm most grateful and thankful for. That when I finally say, you know what, I'm done performing or whatever, whenever that may be, I can be thankful for that. That with poetry, I have gone everywhere. I've won in a lot of places, from New York to Chicago to here to Ohio to Detroit, just all over. And it's all because of poetry. And because of being able to just get on a stage somewhere, get behind a mic, and just express myself for 3 minutes. That's one of the greatest feelings in the world.
Oh yeah, being on stage is for me not one of the greatest feelings in the world, but I can definitely see the adrenaline rush to it.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
it's like being here, there's no lights on me, so I'm okay. So, but you have like at least 4 lights. But being part of the poetry scene for 25 years, what kind of like evolutions or changes have you seen in the poetry community that you've seen for the better? But because I love the style that you do, which I guess is slam poetry, right? And so these changes that we've been talking about, like with these new poets that and keep getting away from the slam poetry competition style stuff. Like, do you like these changes, or you know what I mean? Like, what's your opinion on that?
For the most part, I like the changes. I love hearing new voices. I love seeing new poets competing and just performing and participating. So I love the changes, most of them, because it's good. You know, everything must evolve in order to survive, and so it's good to have those changes. Most of them. Then you on the flip side of that, you do have, you know, in a community of so many people and so many performers, you have those. You do have to deal with the arrogance that's associated with, you know, being good at what you do. And you have to deal with, you know, different types of divisive behaviors. You have to deal with the history of people who don't get along with other people. And so if you find yourself in the middle of that and trying to just be one that reaches both sides and not involves themselves in the drama and the politics of it all, you know, it can get a bit tiresome when it comes to having to deal with, you know, a lot of different type of negative behaviors. Confidence is great, but then when you get to a point of arrogance and your arrogance leads to malice and different things like that and division, then that's where we have a problem. And so there is some of that in the community, unfortunately, but that's anywhere. So, you know, myself personally, I try to navigate around that and just, you know, everybody won't like everybody, and you can't be friends with everybody, and you can't connect with everybody. So I keep that in mind as I navigate through this community. You know, I involve myself with who wants to be involved with me, who I find a connection with, and who I can partner with to push the culture forward. And then those who we don't have a relationship like that, then I don't involve myself in what they do. They can, you know, push the community forward, the culture forward in their way, which is fine. I don't speak negatively against that, but it's just that we can't work together for whatever reason. So you have that. But for the most part, the changes that I see, the new voices that I hear, it's all great, and it's expected and it's needed, so that we can continue to grow and, again, push the culture forward in that way.
Awesome. Oh, well, so I know I keep speaking about slam poetry because that's the only poetry that I'm familiar with. But am I familiar with it that much? Because I didn't know it was a competition until the past couple of years. So do you naturally gravitate towards slam poets or just poets in general? Like, or is there?
Yeah, I myself, I gravitate towards the artists, poets in general. They don't have to be a per se slam poet. I gravitate towards the artists. And some artists I can build a healthy relationship with. Some artists, we just don't have that chemistry or connectivity, which is fine. You know, I would hope that they would find someone that they can connect with. But I gravitate towards the artists, and then, you know, I try to get them. I try to get to know them off the stage, because there's more to us than just poetry. And most poets are layered individuals. And so, you know, if you really want to connect with them, you have to get to know them beyond those layers, because it's a lot there. It's kind of like comedians. How comedians, a lot of them in real life are the most unhappy people. They're the unhappiest people ever. And they laugh the least But on stage, they're some of the funniest because they use their pain to make other people laugh. And so even with poetry and poets, there's so many layers to us. And so if you really want to get to know us, you got to go beyond, oh, you were just a great poet, because, well, okay, thank you. But if you really want to get to know them, you have to go beyond that and get to know them. And that's what I try to do with those that I really want to be connected with.
Well, I'm glad that we're able to do this and hear your poems, and then getting to know you in between. And with that being said, what do you have for us next?
I'm gonna do a piece titled "That's Love." It's a little lighter than the other two that I've done. This is a piece that's about 20 years old that I still love doing. It's still relative to a lot of people's situations today. And it's titled "That's Love." I need something I can feel. Something that's real, because I'm alone. My Lord, is there someone for me? I gotta know, because every time I get close, I fold. A lot of old situations keep me fronting, but running out of hope. When it comes to this love thing, see, me, I have a trust thing, see. Heartache and pain got me feeling no one could love me, so I keep doing things the way that I do. Although it's wrong, and loneliness now got me facing this truth, I need love in my life. Someone in my life I can run to and cry when it's rough or it's tight, and she won't think less of me because of my tears. She won't degrade me or play me because of my fears. Look here. I'm all man, but sometimes it's hard. I need her light shining on me when the times are dark. I need a woman there with me when it's time to walk through the storm. She gonna stick by my side through all, and that's love. Because I'm tired of playing these games that people play when they searching for more. Hurting, of course, not knowing love's worth anymore. I've been there. I'm still here. And I'm wondering if I'll ever run into that special someone coming equipped with the love that I seek, the trust that I need, the one with the keys to make my heart feel at ease. And these are just some things that I miss in my life. Y'all, I don't want to grow old lonely, just wishing I tried to overcome all of my emotional obstacles and once again, fall again, get caught up in someone again. Feel me? I need something more than useless fun, because when the sex ain't enough, I need to be touched in my heart and my soul. I've played my part in the role of the whole. I ain't ready when it starts to get close mode. And that's why I'm here sitting alone, wondering if I'll ever get what's missing for most, and that's love. And it's like karma can make it harder when you're ready to start a relationship, because the drama's coming back when you thought you was done with it. Your past seems to slow up your future. You never knew what you did then would hold up your true love, and that's the position that I'm currently in. It's all good in the beginning, but it hurts in the end. For somebody. And I ain't trying to hurt no more. Either way, because the pain ain't worth the burn no more. I've learned, of course, there's sunshine after the rain. It's time to let it all go instead of manage my pain. Because I still believe in love, I know to come are happier days. And that's why for it, I will happily change. And that's love.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Being in the poetry scene for 25, what's the deal with the snapping?
I'm assuming that's just the history of it all. When I stepped on the scene, they were snapping, and I just went along with it. But as far as I know, that it started, I think in Chicago or something like that. That's as far as I know. I could be wrong. And it's just a thing with poetry. I think it's more of a cool vibe type of situation where it's like you just snap it up because it was just like one of those cool type of settings. So yeah, that's just what I assume it is. So I just flow with it.
Okay, well, that's good to know that nobody knows, because I've asked enough people and they're like, "What? I don't know what the snapping is about."
It's just a poetry thing.
Oh, well, right. So I figured I'd ask you. All right, so here's another question. Have you played at the New Yorican?
Yes.
What?
I've
legendary in the poetry.
Yeah, I just won a slam there. I think, was it October? Yeah, I won a slam there in October. Well, for Bowery and New Yorican. So I've done New Yorican twice. I've had an opportunity to perform at Langston Hughes's Brownstone in Harlem. I did a feature there. That was amazing. Where else? A lot of places. But yeah, Nuyorican, yes.
No. Well, that's the only place I know that's like, other than the Starry Plow in Berkeley. I don't know if you've ever been there. Like, that's the only other place I know where I can go for poetry when I lived in California, because they had like the slam national competition out there, and then they did like erotic haikus, and that's when I first got introduction to all that, and that's where the snapping came from. I was like, what is all like? I want to clap. This was great.
Yeah,
like,
we snap. We don't clap in poetry.
So is it rude to clap?
It's not rude. It's just more of an unspoken rule that we snap. You can clap for singers and MCs and instrumentalists, but for poets, you snap. People clap anyway, which is fine because it's more energetic, so that's cool. But depending on the setting, like if it's something like a chill vibe or something like that, then you snap. But if it's a competition, then clapping is fine.
So it's more about the setting.
Yeah, it's more about the setting.
Okay, all right.
If it's like a cool little vibe or something like that, or something like this, you snap because it's cool. It's not too rah-rah. Right. But if it's a competition or something like that, you clap, which is fine because it's people competing, so you can applaud them for that.
Okay. Well, all right. So another question I got for you is like, where does your inspiration come from when you write these pieces? Is there like a message you're trying to get out, or is this more of like a internal healing or whatever that you need to do?
It's everything. It just depends. For me, it depends on the season of life that I'm in. My poetry is life lived first. So whatever I have lived or I am living, that's what I put into my writing. Like right now, I'm working on a new book. It's titled Mr. Midnight and the Passion Experience, and it's all love poems, intimate, erotic, sensual. And so that's kind of the stage of life I'm in right now, just finding myself in that place of love and when you're dating and sensuality and intimacy and all of these things, that's where I'm at. So that's what I'm putting into that book. But some of my pieces have to do with things that happen in childhood or in young adulthood. And so I wrote it from that season of life. And so at that time it was more healing and therapeutic. I have pieces that celebrate women, because I grew up around women, a sister, my mother, aunties, different things like that. And so I gathered inspiration from that time in my life, whereas I could put that into a poem to celebrate women. So it just depends on where I'm at and what stage of life I'm at. That's where I like to write from. Other poets I can't speak on. Some people may be able to just create a poem, and I can do that too, but I would prefer to just write from where I'm at in the season of life that I'm in.
Man, I don't know how much time you have left, but I have so many questions about this poetry scene. so I see you looking.
Yeah, I had to make sure.
Okay, all right, I saw the thumbs up. So from when you complete a poem and perform it, do you perform it a few times before and then fine tune it until it's completed?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I have to fine tune it and perfect it. It's kind of like any type of athlete, especially if it's a competitive piece. You got to work on it. And for me, I work at it daily. Once I write it, I'll read it from the paper or from the computer screen. And I'll keep reading it, maybe 2 weeks until it's committed to memory as best as it can be committed in that time frame. And so then the second stage of that is to recite it from memory. And even if I mess up, never go back to the paper, never go back to the screen. If I mess up, if I have a hiccup, then to just continue to recite it from memory until I get it. And then that may be another week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on the type of piece. And so once it's committed to memory, then I'll practice it a few times a day. I'll practice it with, like I'll practice my poems while I'm driving in traffic. Because it's unexpected distractions in traffic, especially the traffic here. So that helps me. So when I get on stage, if there's a distraction, if somebody snaps or somebody claps or somebody yells or somebody does something that's distracting, it doesn't throw me off because I've kind of programmed myself to be used to that. And so I've perfected the way that I do it, and it's worked out successfully for me. Like I said, you had like athletes. If an athlete perfects a shot, like a Steph Curry perfects how he shoots the ball. That's why he's the greatest shooter in the NBA's history. So there's no reason for him to change that. Like somebody could say, you need to change the way you shoot. Why? When it's worked out so successfully for him. So for me, this is what works for me. And it worked out successfully for me. So this is what I continue to do. That's my process. Other poets have a different process. For me, that's my process because that's what works for me. And as far as, especially committing it to memory, because I hate reading off of paper on any stage, that's what works for me.
So okay. Do you recite it and practice and commit it to memory before you perform it, or
Absolutely.
then? Oh, okay.
Yeah, before I perform it live, be it a competition, an open mic, or a feature, before any live performance, I recite it and make sure it's right. If it's not right, I won't perform it. It has to be 100%, and I'll grade myself each time, and that takes accountability and honesty with yourself, because I'll say, oh, that was 65%, so it's not ready. That was 75%, so it's not ready. That's 95%, it's still not ready. It could be competition day, and if it's 99%, for me, it's still not ready, so I won't do it, whether it's a performance, a competition, an open mic, whatever it may be. So it has to be 100%. By that day, it has to be 100%. And that means reciting it with no hiccups, no mistakes, nothing like that. Even during certain performances, you might have a hiccup, or you might have a tongue tie or something like that, which is fine depending on the performance. But if it's a competition, I can't have any of that during the reciting phase. It has to be flawlessly done so that when I get on stage, I can do it the same way.
So what I'm hearing is you're not performing anything new until it's at 100%,
Right.
and then after that, you're not fine tuning it. It's completed.
Yeah, I mean, after that, like I'll have some pieces that once they're done 100% and I perform them, if it's in a competition and it doesn't score as successfully as I wanted it to score, or it didn't get the crowd reaction response that I wanted it to, if it's just a performance or an open mic or a feature, then I'll fine tune it. I'll take constructive criticism and or feedback from people who know, and so sometimes I have to fine tune. Sometimes it could be a poem that I think is great, but it's not, as it relates to the masses. And so I have to be open to that, and I have to be open to never performing some pieces again publicly. It's just you have to know that, okay, I thought this would be one thing, but it's not. Or okay, I thought this was a competitive piece, but I see more now that it's a feature piece. Because some poems, you have to have you have to preface them with something, or you have to have a backstory, or you have to have some type of explanation, or people are not going to get it. And if you're trying to do it in a competition, you don't have time for that. So it's not going to score well because people are like, what are you talking about? And then some people may get offended from the fact that they're just ignorant to what you're saying or what you're trying to express. And if you don't have any time for explanation, it's not going to fare well in your favor. And so some pieces, I have those pieces I've done one time, and it's like, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore unless it's in a feature or something like that. But for the most part, I have my competitive poems, and I fine tune them, and I perfect them, and I perfect the performance of them to ensure that they're successful in the competition that I'm in.
Whoa, man, I didn't.
It's
The more you know, right? Yeah, because I had no idea about any of this, and this is awesome to hear. And I never assumed that poetry it was easy because it's so much more personal than writing a song, going to the studio, and once it's recorded and you have that studio track, that's it,
right,
forever.
Right.
Yeah. And so this is awesome that eventually hearing a favorite piece or poem will eventually evolve later on down the line, depending on how the artist seems to handle that. But I don't know where that came from. But yeah, before we head out, what's the last poem that you have for us today?
The last poem I'm going to do is another love piece. It's titled My Femininity, and it's just basically a man speaking from his, what others would call his feminine side, which are just him embracing the softer emotions of humanity, and expressing them to his partner.
All right, well, I'm ready.
My manhood is not limited by the fact that I adore you. Everything about who you are inspires me to worship your womanliness when I explore you. You being the wonderland that is your perfect body. My sweet, my femininity or feminine side, it tells me how you are feeling inside. It tells me how each simple hug and kiss I provide can do so much, while each touch can take away the pain of every minute you cried without me, for I am now you. Darling, my manhood is not decreased by the fact that you are my need. I feel more like a man when I am craving the joys you bring to me, while your compassion can soften even my hardest nature, and your smile can bring about my most sensitive and attentive behaviors, my femininity or feminine side. It helps when I am reading your mind and becoming one with the thoughts that your thinking provides as you and I connect on a spiritual level of limitless heights. Honestly, if I could, every 28 days I would bleed for you. When in distress, I'd be that heaven's peace for you. My manhood is nothing that I need to prove to others who have no need for truth. Truth being that I am in a daily and desperate need for you. And I say that unashamed. And if I could, I would suffer through labor pains so that your body would suffer no major change. And I would be that weakness in times when it's most needed, when being strong becomes redundant, and when days of being alone become abundant. I simply desire to be your company. I long to have you run to me and lust for me and be in love with me. I desire for you to come for me and release your sweets on the tongue of me. Honestly, if I could, I would carry within me a part of you for 270 days, but since I cannot, I will glorify you in 270 ways until tomorrow, and that's when I will start all over again. And if I am less of a man to any of them, then I am more than over my friends. You see, their laughter means nothing, whereas you mean everything and more. They envy what I have found because of with their love or lack thereof, they've become bored and complacent, while me, I know exactly where my place is. It's with you, beside you, inside you, so I am not complaining. When many tell me that I have too much of a feminine side, not knowing what this feeling is like to have love, to know love, and to experience what this feeling excites inside of me. I am woman, for I am you, and I am not afraid to show it. I am masculine with a feminine blend, and I give no concern to those who know it. And if you need me to, I will cry for you, lay down my life and die for you. If need be, I will fight for you against others who have no right to do what they do to hold you down continuously. I am all man only because you bring out the best in me. I am all woman, not moved nor worried by what the rest believe. Because while I am staring at you partaking of a restful sleep, I am falling more in love with you and thus with myself, unshaken by what the rest will think about my femininity. Thank you. Thank you.
Man.
Thank you.
LJ, I'm going to try and not ask you any more questions because this hour-long episode will turn into a 3-hour podcast.
I feel you. Yes,
but with that said, I would love to have you back for a part 2.
Let me know when, bro.
And I will talk your head off even more if you're
That's
okay
cool.
with that.
I'm with it. Just let me know.
Okay, cool. Well, before we go and Rico does the outro, do you have a message for people that follow you, people that don't follow you, a message to the world for the internet?
Yes. If you don't follow me, make sure you do follow me. Again, Instagram official LJ Hamilton, all one word. OFFICIALLJ You can also go to my website, decodedwithlj.com. All of my books are there, so make sure you show your love and show your support. And just be kind to one another. We live in a world of diverse people, diverse backgrounds, diverse personalities, diverse thoughts and feelings and races and orientations and identifications and all of these things that make us the beautiful and amazing people that we are in this country and in this world. So be kind to each other, love each other, and just continue to grow together in that love and in that kindness and in that compassion, and that will make for a better overall society. Government can't fix that. Government can't fix much, but we as a people can do that. If we work together and we love and we're kinder and we show compassion and sympathy towards one another, this will definitely be a better place to live and exist in. And that's my message.
That is a great message. Can't hate on any of that. Well, Rico, take us out.
Well, that was it from LJ Hamilton. You have been listening to the Houston Collective. I can't rap or rhyme as good as him, but I'll do my best. In any case, you've been listening to some goodness. LJ Hamilton, thank you so much. Blue, thank you for the audio. Messiah, thank you for the questions. You are here whenever you are. If it's your first or last time, I thank you. And if it is another time that you're going to join us, then welcome on back. Again, this is the Houston Collective, the Cultivated... I sound like Messiah. This is the Cultivated Beat. I'm Rico Black. Thank you for joining us.
We good here?
Yeah, we're good now.